Destiny 2 feels dead to a lot of folks because the numbers and momentum just aren't there. Peaks on Steam have cratered to the mid-20Ks most days, and some weeks they dip toward the mid-teens. Wild when you remember the 300K plus launch peaks this game used to pull. Even new content isn't spiking like before. The recent Edge of Fate launch struggled to crack 100K concurrents on Steam, a massive drop versus expansions like Lightfall or The Witch Queen. When a flagship drop can't rally the crowd, you can feel the air go out of the room. Second, the live service machine has worn people down. The episodic cadence after the final shape hasn't delivered the "why log in today" hook often enough, and the value conversation keeps getting louder around the Eververse and pricing. Players grumble about nickel and diming, about paying more for less, and about the game leaning too hard on the store while core playlists, especially Crucible, feel neglected or messy. That mix breeds apathy. If loot feels mid and the grind feels thin, people drift. This is everywhere in player discussions and coverage over the last couple years. Third, confidence took real hits behind the scenes. Bungie's major layoffs in 2024 signaled instability, and when a studio is restructuring that hard, players assume slower fixes, smaller bets, and fewer surprises. Add ongoing pain points, PvP health, cheating spikes, awkward matchmaking, and you get a loop where veterans log out and newcomers bounce off a confusing, paywalled, years-deep game. Put all of that together, and it's easy to see why people are saying Destiny 2 is dead right now, even if the servers are still on. Reports revealed that some Destiny 2 players began seeing the tapper error, not for maintenance, but for days on end, effectively locking them out of the game. The affected reports clustered in Russia, Belarus, and Kazakhstan, where Bungie support replies pointed to access being restricted by law. That phrasing gave players zero clarity on which law, who was covered, or how long the block would last. But the practical outcome was simple. People who paid for content suddenly couldn't log in. With players locked out, attention turned to refunds. Normally, Steam's policy is strict. Over 2 hours played means no refund. Yet people cite cases where Valve refunded Destiny 2 purchases anyway, Ultimate Editions and DLC included, even for accounts with thousands of hours. It wasn't universal, but it did happen, which is notable because it shows Steam bending its own rules when access is revoked after purchase. The game post independently corroborated the trend, collecting reports across Reddit and Bungie's forums that Steam was approving refunds for Edge of Fate and the Year of Prophecy Ultimate Edition. They also noted the approvals were inconsistent. Some were granted quickly, others denied, suggesting human review and shifting guidance behind the scenes. In short, there was no guaranteed playbook, but many locked-out players did get their money back. Meanwhile, players chased workarounds. Some mentions that some could briefly sneak in via VPN on PC, disconnecting after login, or DNS changes on Xbox. But those are band-aids, not solutions, and PSN accounts registered in Russia appeared to be stuck outright. Without an official pathway from Bungie, the community was left swapping "try this" fixes while still asking for a real answer. The communication gap poured gasoline on sentiment, and some highlights a sharp swing in recent Steam reviews, from a long-term, mostly positive baseline to mostly negative in the last 30 days, and overwhelmingly negative for Russian-language reviews during the period. That shift tracks with the lockouts and the murky messaging. Players can forgive outages, but not being told what's happening or why. Zooming out, the story sits at the intersection of regional restrictions, platform policy, and consumer expectations. Bungie's one-line statement, "restricted by law," implies legal constraints, but without details, it leaves both players and platforms improvising. Steam's case-by-case refunds, sometimes far beyond the 2-hour limit, show Valve trying to reconcile its policy with a sudden loss of access. Until Bungie offers a fuller explanation or a formal remedy for impacted regions, this remains a cautionary tale. If your access to a live game can be revoked overnight, storefronts may be forced to decide, ad hoc, how to make people whole. Speaking as a player, this is outrageous. No one deserves to wake up, press play, and get told no by a cryptic error after years of buying expansions, cosmetics, and deluxe editions. I don't care how polished the Eververse menu looks if I can't even reach orbit. If a live service can flick the lights off on paying customers because of laws, then that service owes those customers clarity, options, and immediate make goods. Period. Imagine buying every single Destiny 2 add-on, campaigns, dungeon keys, the whole ultimate bundle, then getting locked out for days with no timeline, no plan, and no human explanation. That's not just an inconvenience. That's lost time with friends, lost raid nights, lost value on purchases you made in good faith. And the worst part is the silence. Players don't need corporate poetry. We need specific answers. Who's affected? Why? For how long? And what support is being offered right now? If it weren't for Steam stepping in with refunds, this would have exploded even harder. Let's be honest, Valve bending its own 2-hour policy to help people who literally can't access what they paid for is what kept the community from going nuclear. That shouldn't be the safety net, though. The studio should be the first mover here, not the storefront. When platform policy is doing more to protect players than the game they bought, something's upside down. I get that there are legal and regional realities, but responsible live service design plans for that. Give people proactive warnings before enforcement kicks in. Build a clear refund and migration path. Offer account portability where possible. Communicate like humans. Even a blunt, "We can't legally serve your region, and here's exactly what we're doing to make you whole," lands better than a canned error code that leaves players guessing. This whole mess also exposes a bigger truth about digital ownership. In live games, you don't own access. You rent it, month by month, patch by patch. That's fine as long as the relationship is fair and transparent. It stops being fine the moment paid access disappears without immediate remedies. If the switch can be pulled for reasons beyond a player's control, then refunds, grace periods, and alternative access options shouldn't be favors. They should be built-in rights. So, here's my stance, as plainly as I can put it. Region locking paying customers without clear communication and instant recourse is unacceptable. No one should be locked out of content they bought. If Steam hadn't intervened, Destiny 2 would be in far deeper trouble with trust today. I want this handled fast, publicly, and with player-first solutions that set a new baseline for how live games treat people when the real world collides with our hobby. Now, this isn't the first time I have heard about region locking. Warframe has done region restrictions before, but the context was different from Destiny 2's blanket lockouts. In March 2022, DE publicly tied its actions to sanctions and its support for Ukraine. They suspended all payment options in Russia and Belarus while keeping the game itself online there. Live services remained available, prior purchases stayed usable. That stance focused on monetization, not access, and it was communicated via a formal update on DE's site. Later that year, DE expanded restrictions in specific sanctioned territories where they said they could no longer provide service. In an official forum PSA, December 14, 2022, updated January 11, 2023, DE listed the affected regions: Cuba, Iran, Syria, North Korea, and the Crimea and Donbass regions. The update clarified 2 phases. First, disabling payments and new account creation. Then, in early 2023, disabling access for existing accounts in those places. Importantly, DE stressed that accounts themselves were not deleted. Access was blocked, but nothing on the account was lost. Practically, that left 3 buckets of players. 1, those in the fully restricted territories, no access. 2, those in Russia, Belarus, could still play but couldn't make payments. And 3, everyone else that unaffected. Warframe mirrored this policy across Help Center pages too, repeating the same region list and the no payments from Russia, Belarus note, so support agents and players had a single source of truth. This consistency across the forum, PSA, and support docs matters because it shows digital extremes framed the changes as compliance with sanctions rather than ad hoc enforcement. As for resolution, digital extremes didn't roll the restrictions back. They formalized them, documented them, and tried to limit collateral damage. Their mitigation was transparency, clear lists of affected regions, preservation of account data, nothing wiped, and continued server access where legally possible. Russia, Belarus could still log in, just not pay. That's not a perfect outcome for players in the fully blocked territories, but it's materially different from a sudden unexplained lockout. Digital Extremes gave advance notice, phased the change, and kept accounts intact even where access had to be cut. So the why, at least from Bungie's side, is a black box with a label that says, "Because laws." That's all most players got. A canned line about access being restricted by law, no citation, no timeline, no country-by-country FAQ explaining who's hit, why they're hit, and what happens next. When you've paid for years of expansions and your Saturday raid gets nuked by a vague error code, that thin messaging feels brutal. If there are actual statutes in play, spell them out. If there's a regulatory window or appeal process, say so. Give people dates, not riddles. The absence of specifics doesn't just create confusion, it drains trust. Warframe handled its own region rules in a very different way. Digital Extremes told players early, explained the reason, sanctions, listed the exact affected territories, and phased changes so people had time to prepare. They kept accounts intact, and where legally possible, left game access on even when payments were turned off. That kind of clarity doesn't make bad news feel good, but it does make it feel fair. Destiny 2's approach, laws require it. With no public details, lands like a door slammed in the dark. Players deserve the same transparency. Who's affected, what the legal basis is, how long it might last, and what remedies, refunds, transfers, anything exist right now. You're seeing big names say, "I'm stepping away," and not just as clickbait. Datto publicly announced a break from Destiny 2, framed around burnout and a souring community vibe, joining others like Grenader Jake and Glad, who've done the same. Fallout Plays likewise posted that it might be time to take a break after Solstice 2025, spelling out fatigue with where the game's at right now. The common message, it's not rage quitting, it's exhaustion. When creators explain why, the talking points line up with what players are feeling. The new portal-driven progression in Edge of Fate is grindy in the wrong ways, power chasing feels like busy work, crafting's removal gutted agency, and rewards funnel everyone into the same few activities. Skill expression matters less, randomness matters more, and older gear gets soft sunset by design choices that favor only the newest drops. It's not just the grind is long, it's that the grind feels pointless. That mood shows up across feeds. Everyone is leaving Destiny 2 thumbnails, "I'm done" confessionals, and meta threads tracking creators taking breaks. Even if some posts are dramatic, the pattern is real. More creators are pausing uploads, sampling other games, or narrowing Destiny coverage until Bungie makes meaningful changes. The net effect is a feedback loop. Less creator hype means fewer casuals checking in, which makes the game feel quieter, which pushes more creators to step back. Destiny 2 is digging its own grave. Every headline feels negative. Every hopeful, maybe this next update fixes it, turns into another stumble, and the trust tank is empty. When players finally get a spark of hype, it gets smothered by another weird decision, another systems change that makes the grind feel worse, or another communications miss that leaves people in the dark. After years of this cycle, it doesn't feel like turbulence anymore. It feels like the new normal. So yeah, from where I'm sitting, there's no coming back from this. Not without radical transparency, bold reversals, and actual fun that respects our time. And right now, none of that is on the table. For me, Destiny 2 isn't just on life support, it's effectively gone. The lights are still on, but the soul of the game, it's not here. This might be the last time we talk about Destiny 2 as something we're excited to log into, because as of today, it feels officially dead.